Hey, can you hear us right now? No.
We be heard now?
Boy, what a joke. Somebody pulled our camera. I think all our settings got reset.
Reset.
It's showing up on the little green mic on our end.
Okay.
I can hear you, but very faintly, if that helps.
Oh, you can hear us, okay.
Barely, but yeah,
Well,
Turn
we'll
all the way
talk
up.
louder then. How's that?
it's better.
Okay,
Sorry.
perfect.
Could be my headphones too.
Okay.
I think it was.
Alrighty, everybody, we are gonna continue without video for now. It is 6:05 and calling the meeting to order. Kathy, roll call, please.
Mayor Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember Furby?
Here, sorry.
Councilmember Halverson?
Here.
Councilmember Scanlon?
Here.
We are all here and counted for. Next, moving on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have anything to add to the agenda tonight?
Your Honor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda is adopted. Moving on to public comment. You have 4 minutes per person for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak for public comment? Okay.
Good evening, council members, general public. My name is Jeff DeGabriel. I live at 413 Vine Street, Ishpeming, Michigan. I have discussed for months the city charter violation. Page 19, third paragraph down, section F, backup attorney. I've never been given that information. Nobody seems to have a concern. This is a charter violation, it's unlawful. So, I want to vote tonight to fix this, rectify it. As far as I'm concerned, the attorney needs to be dismissed immediately. If not done, I will file 11-700s on everybody. Thank you.
Great. Is there anybody else for public comment? Last call? Hearing none, we are now moving on to the items of business. We have a quarterly presentation from the Lake Superior Community Partnership.
Cool. Hey guys, it's good to see you all again. Thanks for making time for me on the special agenda. I've been trying to get here for a couple of months. I know you guys have had a heavy agenda and I've had a heavy travel schedule, as I think most people now know based on the headlines. So, but there's actually quite a bit to share with you all. As you may recall, when we did the contract this year, we committed to coming and doing regular in-person updates better than we had done in previous years, just to make sure we were still on track with everything. So what I want to do is go over the progress of the contract itself right now, and then I have a whole list of other economic development updates I just want to make sure that you're all aware of, and then I'm happy to answer whatever questions you do have. On the contract itself, the contract's going very well. I think the new process of flexible hours per month and really allowing us to adjust over the year is working really well, although of course, with changes in leadership at the city, we have had to take some time to readjust that process in terms of communication. After that change happened, we did take a chance to sit down with the DDA and city staff behind the scenes to talk about that and what those priorities should be going forward. So Grant was there with us, Dave from the DDA, Kathy was with us as well. So I think we've got a better kind of process of where we're going to go. Because there were some delays in some of that work, we've extended the carryover provision in the contract, allowing the hours. Before they would only carry over 1 month at a time, and now they were carrying over for 2 to 3 months, just depending on what that carryover looks like, which means the city has a bank of hours, and particularly on the city side for bigger projects in this last quarter of the year, if there's projects that we want to work on. Around the DDA, our efforts have really been focused around marketing and of course working on the Match on Main grants, which was successful with a Doozer's Cookie grant for $24,000. So we're working with Claire and DJ right now on getting that money spent so we can get that reimbursement from MEDC, but we're really excited about that. That was the first time the city was eligible to even enter into that program. It was really competitive this year. So we worked really closely with MEDC and with Doozers to make sure that we had a really competitive, am I getting too far away, Jason?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It was Doozers that got it?
Are they what?
Doozers got that grant?
Doozers got that grant, yep. So the grant technically flows through us. There has to be a local partner who signs the grant agreement. So we've done that on behalf of Doozers, but they're the ones, of course, doing all the work. So we're working with them. On the city side, most of the hours that have been used were used to have Rachel come down and sit weekly with Al for quite a while to just download everything that was in Al's head in terms of planning and zoning and make sure we could be as consistent as possible when that turnover happened, which of course happened this week. So we have all of that, but there are quite a few hours left on the city side to work on. So we've had some ideas and conversations, but we're ready to really put some serious hours in November and October and December if we need to make up some of those hours. In terms of RRC, things are going well, although I think due to the delay of the branding project, we're unlikely to hit certified this year. Of course, we did hit essentials, and we're going to follow that same process that we followed for essentials, and that we are already proactively talking to MEDC to make sure that those things that were green stay green, so that when we get to that branding component and it's done, we should be able to cross the finish line just as easily as we did with essentials. And that will open up some additional tools for the city, although of course the city's already using some of the tools from essentials going forward. One of the new things in the contract, we're having quarterly workshops. So the first one was around a business development 101. That one was held at Velodrome. We had a couple of attendees, but it was a little bit of a last minute session. This last one we were much more on top of, and that was a marketing 101. And that one had actually, I believe, 9 attendees last week. So that one was great. It was held at the West End Economic Hub, and we're going to continue to likely hold them there going forward just because we now have that space. The contract also still has some available marketing flyers. And I'm just going to proactively say I'm pretty bummed ourselves that the magazine is not in my hand tonight. That had been our goal. I'm just going to be really honest with that. I've had the conversation with my team about that, and that's unacceptable from my perspective, and we're addressing that going forward. I think in the future contracts, we're going to recommend the magazine is an every other year thing, just because we had the delay in getting the content, and it got way out of cycle on our end, and we've struggled to get back in the cycle on our side. So I'm going to take full ownership for that one at this stage, that we're frustrated, and I know some of you were frustrated by that as well. So I just want to be really honest about that piece. But it is done, and it is, well, it will be done. I've been told my marketing team that is priority number one over everything else, because it should have been in my hand tonight. So
Thank you.
I think given the turnover, we can all understand reasonable background of the scenario.
And I appreciate
I
that,
agree
and we
with
hold
you.
ourselves to really high standards, so we just want to make sure that you understand that we do that as well. So,
And I know it wasn't completed completely, so yeah.
but it is looking good, what is done. So you should have it very shortly going forward. So that is the contract itself. And then a number of just other updates to let you know. Of course, the West End Economic Hub is now officially open. So there was a ribbon cutting in August. It was probably one of the best attended ribbon cuttings we've seen in a really long time. So that was awesome. If you haven't been in there, please stop by. We now have a full-time staff person who does have that office open 4 days a week. And when the office isn't open publicly, she's out meeting with businesses and out in the community doing other work related to small business promotion in particular, with a focus on West End businesses. Related to that, the West End newsletter is also live. So that's a monthly e-newsletter that mimics what used to be done by the GINCC. That was one of those things that we heard loud and clear folks really wanted. Shortly, I expect there to also be West End specific social media, similar to what GINCC had as well. So that is one of those things the advisory council has told us. I think they think it is important to have West End specific components of, so we'll be working on those going forward. The small business celebration, which mimics the small business celebration that happens downstate every year that none of us can get to because we live up here. So we're bringing it to here. We're actually partnering with the Small Business Association of Michigan, and that will be held at the Mather on November 1st. So if you're interested in that, we're accepting nominations right now for Small Business Awards, as well as a Small Business Champion of the Year award that is new to the LSCP. And then because it's November 1st, it'll be a Halloween themed event. So you can get one more use out of that Halloween costume the day after Halloween. So we're pretty excited about that one going forward. Also, we've been putting a really heavy focus on doing more events in the West End, which is something that we know, again, we've heard, and we believe is really important. So the Housing Solutions in Motion, which is a series that has taken place in Marquette historically, its first session in the West End will also take place this month, also at the Mather. We're having Brooke Osterman come up. She's the Executive Director of Housing Next down in Grand Rapids, and they're doing some really great work around public and private partnerships and policy development to move the needle on housing. So instead of bringing her to Marquette, we're bringing her out here, which we're really excited about. And then also that very week, the UP Economic Developers Association, which is a UP-wide economic development group, is coming to Ishpeming as well for their annual meeting as well. I sit on that group, and we were very adamant that if it was going to be in Marquette County, that it be in the West End. And so we're really excited about that one. That's also at the Mather. And then a couple of other just key events to be aware of. Our last Breakfast in Business event is coming up October 25th. That one is in Marquette, but we will be doing 6 next year, and at least 2 of them will be in the West End. So we're working through those logistics and what that looks like. You all likely saw the news about air service and the Minneapolis routes. So that was a huge win for us. I spent 3 days in 105-degree weather in the deserts. I barely survived, but we got out there. We came back with a huge win, not only morning service to Minneapolis, but better service to Detroit. And so, and the news from SkyWest, or the feedback from them was, if Minneapolis is as lucrative as it was last time, we can expect more flights going forward. So we encourage folks to use that. There is a thing called the Sawyer Pledge that is now on our website. So if you go to marquette.org/airservice, any business organization can sign that. It's a free pledge. Just shows public support that yes, Marquette Sawyer is our local airport. We need air service here. We commit to using this airport whenever possible. And a couple of other bullet points on there. Just so as we continue to have conversations with other airlines and build those relationships with SkyWest and Delta even further, that we have that public backing in addition to the data that we had when we went out to Utah. Legislatively, it's been a really quiet couple of months actually, which is a little bit of a weird thing to say after the last 2 years out of Lansing, but we of course expect after November for things to get very chaotic very quickly in Lansing. So we are watching that. The big things that we do expect to come across are of course sick leave and minimum wage discussions. We know the majority is looking at making at least some type of change to that law, which was put into effect by the Supreme Court in July, and it's going to affect every small business and really every business in Michigan in one way or another. So we're watching that very closely. There's also some housing legislation that's going through and a number of other issues down there. Go ahead.
Are you guys pushing for the Cliffs Amendment to be taken up in lame duck?
Which one?
The Cliffs Amendment on the energy packages to be picked up under lame duck?
Yeah, so we've had those initial conversations.
I have too,
Our
yeah.
current strategy is to watch for the UP energy study and see if it's in there.
Okay.
Because that'll give us some real backing.
Yeah,
which is actually my next item.
I was told it was on their desks to possibly take it up, so I didn't know if that was going to be coming up or not.
Yeah, it's always been in our radar. We're just trying to watch the timing and make
Excellent.
sure. So, which speaking of Cliffs, we're also watching the Tilden Mine expansion permit issue, which is now on its 3rd attempt,
Yep.
which we think is pretty ridiculous. And
Yep.
so we've expressed that to Eagle that they can't keep changing the rules, right, and the expectations. So
Great.
that's been frustrating to us, but we're working very closely with Cliffs on that.
Excellent.
And we are, of course, super excited about the Eagle Mine RevX announcement of $195 million in federal and state incentives to build 3 new facilities in Marquette County. So that is a big news as well. The last thing I'll put on here, we got an AmeriCorps position at the LSCP, which is new for us as an organization. It kind of mirrors our efforts in the community, more comprehensive economic development. This person has a deep history in local community grant writing, so we are super excited about that work. That is one of the things that's actually in the city's contract that we of course already do, but this individual has a full career and is actually retired to Marquette County and is now in AmeriCorps working with us for a year. So we're super excited. We're working right now on a Changing Communities grant out at Sawyer for $20 million. And as soon as that gets put in there, then he'll be working on other grants. So if there's grants that the city here is interested in, you know, we can, I'm sure there are, right? I shouldn't say if, like we can talk about which ones. I think it's really important that we kind of get that into the queue for Paul. He's done a really great job there. So that's, if you can believe it, the short list of the updates. Like I said, it's been a number of months since I've been here, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about the contract, about economic development in general, but it has been a very, very busy 4 months, 5 months, I don't even know. So,
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks.
yeah, thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Chris.
Of course, thanks, Chris.
Okay, moving on to confirm 2024 for L 4029.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Next is an update on the city manager search.
Okay, so I have contacted 2 different recruitment firms to no real result, staying several times, and then I think it's
Please
Robert
make
Flynn.
sure you're speaking.
Oh, sorry.
too.
Yep. What we have in front of you right now is just a confirmation of sort of a job ad that we'd like to put out in the Mining Journal to garner any local interest, and then obviously as well on the website. Those are easy things that we can do. I don't think that the right way to go is to go through Indeed, because we don't have the time or capacity to really meaningfully filter through the amount of candidates that we'll get if we do something like that. So if we don't hear back from one of these other organizations in the next couple of weeks, I think approaching the MML would be reasonable. And then I do think timing is something that we can should consider, that leaving the candidate window open through sometime after the election is probably fair.
Yeah, I mean, this council isn't going to be the one making the decisions on who the manager is going to be anyway. Going through the MML may be our best option at this point. But we also don't want such a small window, correct, that, we're not giving people enough time to think about it to apply. And we want to get as many quality and qualified candidates as possible, not just take the first person that jumps on our radar, correct?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So maybe hopefully if there's somebody local with the Mining Journal, they can get in and think about it. They'll probably know what they're getting into. And then we can keep pushing to find a more expansive, contract. That'll help
Perfect.
us find somebody, but I do think leaving it open until after the election is going to be a key
I would agree.
metric.
It's only 34 days right now.
So can we, does this sort of posting description look okay to everybody? It's
Yeah,
not
pretty
super
much the
detailed,
same as we-
boilerplate? Okay. Great.
Yeah, looks good to me. Do you want us to make a motion on this?
Do we need
I
one?
don't think we need a
Yeah.
motion to go ahead and post it
Yeah.
online and
Okay.
in the Mining Journal.
Okay,
All right.
sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on now to item D, which is quotes for the Daewoo forklift repairs.
Your Honor, I will move that we grant Burrell Engine the bid. I appreciate the department head going and talking to Charter. They're considerably higher than Burrell, but I always like to, give the local guy 10 or 15%.
Agreed.
But not that much, so I will move that we.
If I can explain something real quick before
Go
you
ahead.
make the motion. So the Burrell one is them rebuilding the motor, us taking the motor out, us putting the motor back in. The
Oh.
one with Champion Charter is
Everything?
same thing, but them doing all the work. So it's an additional $3,000, but that's their labor versus us doing the work.
What is your recommendation then, I guess?
Personally, I'd like to table this because just with that other purchase that we just did, I'd rather start looking into some other auction
Avenues?
sites and possibly doing that again.
Sure.
In that case, I will move that we table it.
I will support it. All in
you.
favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving on to our discussion on the proposed budget for 2025.
Okay, so a few things that I would like to point out before we get into the meat of this. In front of council, you have your 2025 budget packet, which starts with the budget message. You have a capital improvement plan with all of your lead sheets and information when provided from departments has been included. The capital improvement plan, like last year, is not anything that you guys are, approving these purchases right now. These would all go through the normal council process, and it's a working document, so this isn't set in stone. This is the plan that staff is presenting to council. Council, of course, has input on it. It's not a done deal.
Is there anything in the budget message that you'd like to highlight?
Yes, I would like to read my budget message and go through. I just
ahead.
wanted to get out ahead.
Yep.
The other thing is that we need to remember when we're discussing purchases and appropriations that when we're dealing with different funds, we might as well be dealing with different organizations. When we talk about a budgetary difficulty in one fund, it may seem counterintuitive that we would talk about a vehicle purchase in another fund, or vice versa. We have different revenue sources and different allowable uses in different funds. So keep that in mind as you are following along with the budget proposals and the budget message. Okay, so without further ado, residents of Ishpeming, staff, and city council. Spend enough time at City Hall and you'll be able to pick up on a clear and seemingly universal message. It's more of a lament than a complaint. Things here are not like they used to be. Both the energy behind and the creative ways these messages reach us feel more like loss than an actionable charge. I'm here to tell you that we can never go back, only forward. If we cannot accept where we are and what we can realistically do as a city, things will never improve with any sort of regularity. There is a very real pressure working for local government to put a good face forward, explain all the positive things about the city, to focus on what is going right, and spend little time discussing what isn't working. I wholeheartedly believe giving into this is a mistake. It is a mistake to think that residents and neighboring communities cannot see our dirty laundry. If you are a resident, your day-to-day will shape your opinion of the city more than any narrative you may be subject to hearing. From an organizational standpoint, a failure to acknowledge opportunities for growth portrays an insecurity and lack of confidence. It erodes trust. What I am proposing instead will, however, require some buy-in from the public. An atmosphere where we can productively discuss the challenges the city is facing with realistic expectations of outcomes. A two-sided conversation, the only real kind. When you are done reading this message, take a drive around the city. What do you see? What do you feel as your vehicle drives down the road? How far do you have to drive to find an abandoned house? How far do you have to drive to find a cut in the pavement where a water main break was repaired? How many vacant and underutilized buildings stand downtown? With those answers in mind, I would like to now ask you a question. How long does it take for a road to degrade? How long does a house sit vacant and neglected before the structure begins to collapse? How long has it been since the Anderson Building on Main and Pearl was occupied, the Butler Theater? I am told when our crews respond to water main breaks, they oftentimes find boulders used for fill the last time they were replaced. The rocks against the main slowly chisel against the pipe every time the mine blasts just after noon. All this to say, like many other small towns, we are today tasked with addressing the sins and neglect of the past and at the same time reinventing ourselves. We are a city grappling with its own transition, finding its own middle ground. We are drenched in the dichotomy between rural and urban space, and our eyes are trained on two opposing abstracts, the future and the past. It's not just the contrast between our mining history and newer economic drivers like recreational trail use. We see both past and future when we make a $400,000 yearly bond payment just to cover a portion of benefits for employees long since retired from the city, while we struggle to take care of our current employees. We see both past and future when we find creative ways to pave streets because no replacement or repair funds were ever set aside. We see both past and future when we bond to pay for underfunded water and sewer infrastructure projects, yet start maintenance and replacement savings on the infrastructure upgrades we can do. We see both past and future when we partner with organizations who can provide social programming we cannot afford ourselves to do. We see both past and future when these organizations turn vacant lots into gardens, farms, and educational spaces. If someone, anyone, started planning for these issues 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we would be in a significantly better position. Try as they may have, no one successfully did. So, now, we are tasked with playing the hand we are dealt while doing everything we can to stack the deck for our predecessors. In order to be successful, I believe we need only ask ourselves 3 questions before every decision. How can we make the biggest impact in the lives of our residents? Is what we are about to do sustainable? And is it the business of a city? Thank you for taking the time to consider my 2025 budget. I am asking for your support and help in planning for the future. And may none of us be afraid to plant a tree just because we ourselves may never enjoy the opportunity to sit in its shade.
I think that's a good message to set as we try and move forward, because it's going to take a village to work together to improve this community, and it's going to take buy-in, it's going to take economic development, it's going to take successful grants, it's going to take a lot of work to do this. And you're right, if we had certain things done years ago, or business practices were different back in the day, maybe we wouldn't be running into some of these problems. So yeah, it is time to start really planning for the future.
And I think it's less about pointing the finger, and it's
I
more
agree.
about just, we need to understand we did not get here overnight. We will not change overnight.
Yep.
So we need to make slow, sustainable, calculated decisions on where we need to be going moving
Yeah,
forward.
that's what I was trying to elicit, I guess, yes.
So with that being said, would you like to go fund by fund with the proposals?
Yes, I would personally.
Okay. So we'll start with the general fund, which is, of course, the fund that has given us the most trouble in prior years. The general fund is the main hub for governmental activities such as police, fire, administrative, and library operations. The bulk of the inflows the general fund realizes comes from 2 sources, property taxes, of course, and state revenue sharing.
Where are we in this?
Under budget narrative, so we're just past
Oh,
all your
okay.
blue pages to the
Perfect,
back.
thank you.
And now, if you're a council member, this might be a good time to tear off that City of Ishpeming budget narrative from your blue-colored funds by department so that you can follow along concurrently.
Working on it here.
We're going to be on the second page,
So we're on, right here, general
general
fund.
fund.
Yep, and then you've got this page, your
It's almost
City of
towards the
Ishpeming
back
budget
of the
narrative.
first one.
Yeah, so your budget narrative is attached. Do we have an extra budget narrative for Ms. Halverson? May I? There you are. Okay, so in 2024, the city as a whole is on path to spend $750,000 to provide health insurance to 31 employees. In the general fund, we have spent 28% of the city's general operating millage to ensure the equivalent of 21 employees housed out of the general fund. We are in a string of deficit budgets year after year, and at the current rate, our health insurance costs are at risk of bankrupting the general fund within 4 years if we do nothing. The 2025 budget sets a number, $550,000 to ensure 31 employees, that the city can responsibly afford to spend on health insurance, and leaves it up to the staff, including, of course, the insurance committee, to seek the best available option within that budget unless other cuts are made. So what I'm proposing with our health insurance right now is not that we have a discussion on what the specifics of what that insurance looks like, but that we, as a council and as senior staff, can agree on a number which is responsible for the city to spend, and let our insurance committee do the work, of working with our contacts at 44 North to see.
And elsewhere.
And elsewhere, sure, wherever, to see what, we can get for that money. But I don't think that the money that we can afford to spend on health insurance is going to change without other cuts.
And we have, what did we spent what last year?
Right now, we're looking at $750K is what we're projected to come at. We are self-funded. We have no premium share, no deductible.
That's I don't know, that's a huge drop for me. From 750 to 500 something.
We have a health
Without-
insurance plan that's well above and beyond what most of our residents probably would ever hope to see.
Jason, we talked about this last year.
Mhm.
Everything about asking the employees to make a contribution to the copay towards their insurance. For some reason, that couldn't even be discussed. I mean, in the general public, most people do make a contribution or copay towards their own insurance, 20%. That's the norm. And I have great insurance, and it's 20% that you're gonna pay. And I don't understand why the city should be asked to pay 100% of the insurance for city employees. I realize that's really a nice benefit for us to be able to give them, but the city can no longer afford that luxury.
For me, it's a great retention thing, retaining employees. It's great for recruiting employees to keep their copay at zero or as low as possible. And I'm worried that if we go from 750,000 this year to 550,000 this year, that would be a drastic change in their policies. And I am not a person that wants to see any drastic change happen to our city employees when I'm nervous that, we haven't done everything we could possibly do yet to make this change, or without doing this over a period of time. I don't like the idea of going down a drastic avenue unless.
Make the start, okay, we didn't want to plan for it last year to make even a small cut. And now you're saying this year you don't want to plan for it and make a small cut?
I'm not saying I don't want to plan for it, and I wasn't completely finished either with what I was kind of trying to say. I don't necessarily know if I'm comfortable setting an arbitrary number based, that is a full cap, if we do get a really good one that comes in at $600,000 or $625,000, and doesn't change much, or yes, we will probably have to go with a deductible. We will, there are things that we may have to change, but I want to make sure that we are doing absolutely everything creative we can to provide the best possible benefits for our employees.
If I may.
Yep.
So I think the most appropriate route at this point in time is take this to the insurance committee, have all parties involved, sit down and discuss this, and go from there. I kind of agree with, I'm not comfortable setting a cap right now on what we're going to pay until we know what we're looking at and what our options are. But again, I don't think the purpose of today is to make any solid decisions right now anyways. This is for discussion purposes. So keeping this whole paragraph here in mind, going into that insurance committee meeting, I think that's where we need to start.
Yep. And our current members of the insurance committee are Pat and myself, correct?
In the past, yes.
Past, yeah. Well, I think you definitely need to stay on it because you're going to be the future mayor.
If I might echo what Elizabeth is saying, we don't use our committees and our commissions the way we should sometimes.
I agree with you.
And this is one where Ronell's right, we need to throw it at them before we even discuss these
Yep.
things. But we can't keep writing checks that we can't.
I agree with you on that too. I wholeheartedly do agree.
This is why I'm not asking for anybody here to set what the plan will look like or whether there would be a premium share. I'm open to facilitating any and all options with one exception, and that is as your finance director and as your city manager, this is what you can afford this year without cutting anything else. In the past, cuts haven't been popular, so we can come back, but we need this year to pass a balanced general fund budget. We're not putting any money away, we need to not lose money out of our general fund this year. So I think everybody can understand maintaining staffing levels is dependent on a healthy general fund. So this isn't me, I am on this plan, I'm voting or discussing something that will affect me with, of course, the obvious fact I am towards the top of the totem pole in this organization. I think that's fair to admit, but I'm taking the same health insurance costs. I wish that it wasn't the case that we were having this discussion. It is.
I think that as we go through pertaining to the general fund, I don't know that in my lifetime we've ever had a black ink budget in the general fund. I think we've always been a deficit budget.
Yeah, we have.
And in my mind, I think that that's the place to start, to try and a balanced budget that's not a deficit budget. And I know Jim always used to
Be conservative.
err on the side of caution, and I didn't like that. It looked good, but you didn't really know what was going
Right.
on. So I'm more prone to say, let's make these adjustments now in whatever areas we're talking about, but in the general fund, our goal should be to do a balanced budget.
And, just so you guys know, I have already allocated and spread just about every expense that I can do so rightfully to. So for example, my wage, I touch all of the funds. I work with all of the funds, so my wage is allocated. Same with Kathy, same with a lot of our administrative staff is spread as much as we reasonably and responsibly can, right? We're not gonna do anything that's not realistic. Same thing with our attorney. Our legal fees are spread, our assessing fees even for the different funds which enjoy property tax revenue. And things like our marijuana tax, which was a nice surprise. I've already budgeted for that in this number. I've done everything I can to pump the brakes in other areas. I know that this is a big issue, so not bringing it to you lightly or as my first resort is all I'm trying to illustrate. It's really what the general fund is going to hinge on this year. That's what the budget discussion for the general fund is mainly going to be about.
Realistically, how fast can the budget or the insurance committee meet to discuss this with everybody involved?
Well, we typically will have our current insurance through the end of January. Is that correct, Kathy?
The current insurance goes through January 1st.
Yeah, so we have time this is your reasonable warning. Let's take some time. We have time. Let's take it and use it wisely to find some better alternatives and see what those look like.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that we uncover every possible stone before we make any drastic changes. So, but getting creative with the health savings accounts and other types of insurance, as well as an increase in the deductible, maybe possible too, without making a big cut into the share they have to pay too. But
Yeah, this is an area where we're going to have to balance our responsibility to our employees with our responsibility to our residents.
I agree. And I understand that, I do.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
think we should carry on and
Yeah.
pick it apart.
okay. So are we moving on to major streets? Okay.
So are we saying that we're going to get the insurance people on this, like, I mean, that's gonna happen then? We're going to notify them that we just.
Yes.
Immediately working on that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep. So, and once again, just making it clear, this is the insurance committee's decision to drive what our health insurance looks like. It's just administrative staff's information to provide what we can afford. That's all I'm doing is, here's what we can afford. The rest is up to them. All right, so moving on to our major and local streets. Both major and local streets are dependent on state revenue and grants for funding. No property tax funds your street efforts here. The city maintains just over 13 miles of major streets and 32 miles of local streets, I believe. Estimated revenues for the fund see a small increase over the prior year, which will hopefully keep pace with any inflation of expense. For 2025, the Major Street Fund is slated to receive $385,000 in MDOT small urban funding, which will be used to repair sections of Washington, Greenwood, Saginaw, Pine, Division, and Hematite Street. The 2025 proposed budget for major streets leaves a surplus of 13.5K, and for local streets, a surplus of 16.5K.
Okay.
If there are no questions, I can move on to the DDA. The DDA is beginning to see some real flexibility in its funding for the first time in quite a while. The budget requested here was discussed and approved by the DDA. It includes increased facade and startup assistant grant funding for small businesses, which I think is a really great thing for downtown. I think when you look at our downtown, it's not hard to tell that our DDA has been underfunded for
Yes.
quite a while. And it's exciting to see all of the great ideas they're coming up with now that we have some funding to work with.
Yeah.
If there are no questions, we can move on to the Public Improvement Fund.
Okay.
The Public Improvement Fund is sitting on a large cash reserve after several years of slow funding execution. There are some larger projects budgeted in 2024, including the Second Street storm sewer collapse, which we have about a $350,000 estimate for. If that repair is executed in 2024, it will leave the fund with just shy of $800,000 at fiscal year end. So for 2025, grant matches for the tennis courts and the skate park have earmarked a sizable portion of that funding. I am requesting $300,000 from public improvement be allocated to storm sewer repairs while we have roads torn up as part of the ongoing DWSRF and CWSRF projects. Mainly what I'm talking about is 3rd Street is the one that comes to mind, needs new storm sewer work. That road's going to be torn up. Now is the time, because basically we're just buying pipe. We're not paving or digging. Other large expenditures anticipated include a new heating system for the library, which we are told is on its very last leg. And I have proposed $140K in blight elimination funding to be used as a match with the land bank or directly against problem areas of town. The 2025 budget also reflects the CIP requests from the library, police, and fire department as presented. The fund will pair its $595,000 in anticipated tax revenues, along with the mentioned $800K carryover to fund these proposed efforts. So if we take a look at our capital improvement list, which is a separate document packet that you've got stapled there, we can look left to right on the columns. We can see by department, description, your cost, and then your funding source. Anything with PIF or Public Improvement Fund is hitting that. And a lot of those are projects that were described in that overlay.
I have a question. Didn't we just buy a brand new snow blower loader attachment?
No, not the large street one.
Like 2 years ago? Yeah, I know, but I thought we bought, since I've been on the council, I thought we bought one big one for the new.
Hey, Brent, did, last time, we had talked about that repair over there, in the storm drain, it's sitting in limbo.
On Second Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we get FEMA money?
So we had 250K of Section 19 emergency funding. And then last year, I applied for an additional 250K and we got it. But the problem is that we have the sinkhole over by Sealands, and then we have another area which was earmarked for that funding already. So we have that $500,000 is almost guaranteed going to be eaten up repairing the sinkhole in the pipe over by Sealands, which is why I haven't allocated for it here.
So we're getting a new Vector truck?
It's a proposed CIP, which you guys would, of course, at the time,
Yeah.
approve
Yeah.
and go through bids and everything, all that good stuff. So we have $42 million in projects we're looking at. A lot of that is DWSRF and CWSRF. CWSRF is, should be 85% complete by year end, roughly. And then, of course, DWSRF will start in 2025 with 3rd Street.
Okay.
All right. We can move on to the brass wire. If nobody has any more questions or comments on public improvement. And if something comes to you later, we can always circle back. Brass wire isn't a fund that we normally go through in great detail, but I just thought, since it's been the subject of so much discussion, I wanted to point out that it has made 14.9K in 2024, which is almost break even with what its operational expenses were. For 2025, I am hopeful, given the increased traction that the campground has gained towards the end of the season, that we will see 25K in revenues, which would be about 1,000 nights booked versus the 596 nights we saw in 2024. That is a hopeful revenue estimate, but hopefully much more realistic than the ones we've seen in the past. The sewer fund. The sewer fund is projected to finish out the year with metered sales just shy of $200,000 above projections. This is likely the first fruits in our improvements to our metering equipment and billing procedures. The CWSRF project is expected to be 85% complete in this fund by fiscal year end 2024. And we should see the project wrap up in 2025. Sewer fund is looking very healthy, very excited about that. The water fund, like the sewer fund, is outperforming its metered sales projections. 2.32 million in sales were budgeted, and if the fund continues on its trend, it is expected to reach 2.6 million by fiscal year end 2024. Also, like the sewer fund, this is likely a result of the work done on the meter infrastructure and the billing department. The DWSRF project will add at least $11 million in revenues and expenditures to the normal operation of the fund in 2025, maybe more depending on how fast the project progresses. The DWSRF project will replace 51,000 feet of water main. That's 9.6 miles of water main in the city. Maps of the project scope, which are broken out into sections, are attached at the end of this.
That is a huge investment.
Yeah.
On the water fund, now going back to the proposed budget, do you have our increase in there, or?
So I'm glad you asked, because that brings me to our next fund budget, which I'd like to discuss, and we can discuss increases. So for 2025 and forward, something that I wanted to propose or begin discussing with council is that given the stormwater infrastructure issues that the city has, and we have no real funding source which is identified to regularly fund those replacement and maintenance efforts, what I would propose for 2025 is looking into a one-time waiver of our 5% rate increases. And in lieu of that, assessing a $10 a month flat stormwater charge. So this is about break even with our increase that we would be foregoing in order to create a stormwater fund, sort of like what Marquette has.
What's the more affordable option?
Well,
Is it
right
the
now,
$10 or is it the 5%?
what's that?
I would think that $10 would be more affordable than 5%.
A
Depends on
month,
your
so-
water usage, but it's on
I mean,
average.
for thinking on an average family.
Yeah, on average, it'd be about right there, and this would just be, it's not $20 next year, it's just $10.
One time.
And one time.
One
and it's
time or every month?
Every month, but it's a $10 charge that we've waived a rate increase in your water and sanitary sewer, and we are assessing a storm water. We can't use sanitary sewer funds for storm water. We not only have this sinkhole, which you can bet there's more brick storm sewer under the streets somewhere in this town. We have one pipe which leads out of town, which we have no redundancy
No
for.
backup, eh?
No backup for. We need to start planning before we're in another emergency with this. So this is one way we can get out ahead of this and start to take some proactive action. A key element to the timing of this funding is much with like the 3rd Street storm sewer pipes, we have a lot of road torn up over the next 2 years. And we can hopefully get a lot of mileage for the money. This is something that council could dissolve in 2 years, or if successful, we could leave it going.
Doesn't have an end date. This $10 monthly flat rate on would be from now until forever. It never goes away. So next year, when they get the 5% regular increase, they'll still be subject to the extra $10 flat rate.
Yes, the $10 charge would be in lieu of a 5% rate increase this year. But the $10 charge would not go up 5% next year. It would just be a $10 flat charge.
Right, but you.
It would stay on next year.
We're not,
5% would still be added to.
we're not budgeting the following year. You know what I mean? We're not saying that that's forever and ever, amen. We're saying that for the 25 budget, we would feasibly waive the increase in the water bills, the 5%,
Yep.
and we would add a $10 monthly charge to be held for storm sewer.
Yes.
And then in 1925, when we look at the 26 budget, renew it. If the 5% need, which I would hope it doesn't, I would hope we're done with increasing water, at least at the 5%, but that's the budget year for 25 then.
So I don't want to forecast anything. We have just taken out, some large, very important infrastructure bonds, very needed, drinking water, not fun stuff, just like public health, right? So with that being said, I'm not going to say we'll never charge a 5% increase because we need to make sure that we make those bonding commitments.
Why?
But our funds right now, based on what we've seen for the second half, or the first half of 2024, and how I think we're going to close out, the issues that we're still finding and cleaning up,
So I have a
the new
quick
metering
question
infrastructure,
though.
we may not need.
Couldn't we just take that 5% increase and go with that instead of charging lower water users a flat rate too? I mean, if they're using under that minimum that we charge,
From what I'm understanding, which is entirely possible, is incorrect, but I thought that the point of the flat rate specifically for storm sewer was because if we did a 5% increase on the bills as they are now, that funding can't go towards storm sewer.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Sanitary
So that's
sewer
why this needs to be
funds,
established separately?
different
Right.
color of money.
You still have a question? I'll let you answer, yeah, or ask, go ahead.
You have 5% on water and 5% on sewer. Are both of those gonna go away?
Both waived this year. In lieu, that's how we would get to that $10, both no water or sanitary sewer increase
No increase.
in lieu of the stormwater charge. Now, this is pending. I didn't want to spend a ton of time flushing out what an ordinance looks like and everything else if council's not going to be amenable to it. So this is, of course, pending, a little more legal work, but this is something I'd like to look into, and if it seems like it might be well received,
So
this,
is this 10 on water and 10 on the sewer, so they're gonna look at.
Just
Nope.
straight, it's a flat.
10 flat for storm sewer. Yep.
Can we,
Okay, I just wanna be clear, because
Oh,
remember
yeah.
when you add in.
exactly, I know what you're
it's
meaning,
split
yeah.
HOA,
yeah.
They say, oh yeah, it's only temporary, but, it just seems to never go away.
And my question is, would we be able to do a scaling number on this? Like, this year it would be, or, this coming year it would be $10, but then it drops down to a $5 flat
We're
charge.
we're not doing next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
This is
that
this
would be
year.
something at the end of the year.
All right.
That worked out, people were agreeable with it, it wasn't a burden,
And I would,
agreed to continue it or just.
and if we do this, I would like to make sure that every resident gets a little note in the mail telling them that we're waiving those 5% fees in lieu of a $10 a month charge. That way they understand what's happening.
Yeah, yes, and this, like any other enterprise fund, this is stormwater money. This isn't money
Right.
that the city is going to sit there and continue to
Right.
assess and then transfer in to buy whatever out of the general fund. No, this is stormwater
Yep.
money. And
Which-
if we are
Would
sitting on
that be
a,
considered an enterprise fund?
it would be its own enterprise fund. And so if it's its own enterprise fund and it's sitting on millions of dollars of underutilized funds, we're not gonna, what can we do with the
Yeah,
money?
I
What's the
know.
point of continuing to
It's
assess the charge?
restricted money.
So we're either using it to a good purpose, which should be clear every year,
Yeah.
wow, look at all the work we did to replace our infrastructure. And if not, it should be pretty clear to a council, why are we assessing this charge?
And,
For these
and
services.
this is what planning for the future is too, so.
Absolutely.
This is the not fund now so that we can take care of our own house
But
later.
it's nice for a change to not be robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's what I want to avoid doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good.
And odds are this 5% is gonna be a net savings for a lot of people.
So the other thing that I want to point out is without doing this, your funding for your storm sewer is coming from public improvement. Your public improvement millage is also where you are going to get down payment for a fire truck. Your public improvement millage is also where you're going to, I don't know, take care of a historic tower in the city that may or may not need repairs. I'm waiting on the structural engineering to come back still.
And
Your
we
public,
don't- we don't
public
have-
improvement is where you fix a lot of other things. So this helps free up your public
Right.
improvement funding to maybe even, God forbid, put some money into your roadways. This
True.
has a ripple effect throughout the other funds.
And and are we gonna be left with how much are we gonna be left in our budget with public improvement fund dollars in the event that we do need to change course and make a payment to fix a tower or something like that?
That would be, so any one of those projects, like we saw with the storm sewer collapse, which is all of a sudden $350K out of nowhere. Your public improvement yearly millage is $595K. Had we not been sitting on a large reserve, we would be taking care of a sinkhole and nothing else. There goes
Sewer
your
collapse.
plans.
Sewer collapse.
Sewer collapse, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you for correcting me. It's not a sinkhole. The point being, this is one creative way to plan. If you guys are amendable, I'd like to look into it further and spend some time further vetting it.
I believe you definitely have to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay with you further vetting it for now, yeah.
Okay, great. So no decision,
Yep.
just we're gonna do some more homework, figure out what exactly it looks like. But I didn't want to spend hours on it if it's not anything anyone's interested in. Okay. Thank you for hearing me out on that. Garbage and recycle fund. pretty standard, as always, performing well in 2024. The budget for the 2025 Garbage and Recycle Fund is a straight inflationary increase of expenses against similar.
Are our tipping fees, I don't know how to say this.
Increased?
Well, no, the Partridge Creek compost
Oh,
and recycling should be reducing our tipping fees.
So,
Am I right, or am I?
yes, if compost scales enough, so this is a really great opportunity to explain that if compost is successful, because it's a pilot program, if enough people buy into that, one is, I believe, a very responsible thing to do, but two, it does reduce your tipping fees, and we could see some return in that. So I don't think, as of right now, in its real first year of its pilot program,
doing much.
I've seen a change, but if enough people buy in, that may turn very quickly.
I think we should join Partridge Creek Farms compost in promoting that.
I fully agree with
Because
you on that.
if you think
yes.
about a 5-gallon pail of food scraps, compostable material, that's probably 25 pounds.
I will tell you, I typically, since I started, put 1 bag of trash out a week. It's a small kitchen bag and it doesn't smell. It's pretty great.
Okay.
Until the dog gets into the compost, and then that's not great, but, that's on me.
But I think that's a positive side of our garbage.
I do too, yeah.
recycle fund.
Yep.
We got something going on there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is, what, $28 a month?
For weekly curbside pickup, it's $28 a month. So if you're me and you're feeding kids who never clean their plates, worth it. They do offer a bi-weekly, which is probably great for most residents, and that's cheaper as well.
Yeah, I've thought about looking into the bi-weekly already, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. I think I'm going to.
awesome.
Yeah.
Highly encourage it. Motor pool fund. So here we are seeing the effects of our robbing Peter to pay Paul for 2024. Performance in the motor pool fund has been hamstrung by the general fund's inability to pay vehicle rental revenues. Like all other city infrastructure, the regular and systematic maintenance and replacement of the city's motorized equipment, it's not a luxury, it's a responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources. I personally believe there's no reason any city employee should be driving around town in a truck with the floorboards so rotted out that you can see the road, which is factually where we were at. Replacing equipment at the right time is a cost savings effort. The motor pool will continue to replace pickup trucks with the blessing of council into 2026, when it will be able to taper off and focus on saving for heavier equipment. So we're almost done replacing some of those way
The light
problematic
duties.
trucks, the light duties, yep. The motor pool fund will, as budgeted, if nothing changes, resume its assessing rental revenues for use of equipment in 2025 to the general fund. So how this works right now is the motor pool fund has about $270K in cash. And at the end of the year, what we have budgeted is it's going to repay the general fund for all the rental revenues assessed. I'm projecting that's going to be about $170K. So this is something, it's basically you're going to have to start over for 2025 in your vehicle savings. Now, we were able to purchase some trucks, and we made some smart decisions on used equipment this year, so that has used up some of the balance in an appropriate way. But
What did that bucket truck come out to anyway?
26 an auction, which is a
What did
great
we
deal.
allow for it?
60.
60.
Good job.
Bill,
That's beautiful. I went over
Yeah.
and saw it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go take a look at it.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Truck.
Inside or outside?
What, it's up at Pine Street right now.
Oh, it is. I'll take a look over afterwards.
Now, I gotta go back on that. You said that the general fund was unable to pay vehicle fees
yes,
to the motor pool fund.
that's what we budgeted for in 2024.
Yeah, I remember that.
So basically, we were in debt.
Yes, when I explained, like, we passed an $80K deficit budget last year, and that was after a forgiveness of rental revenues from the motor pool. Remember, we had the discussion that the motor pool is effectively, it's an internal service fund, but how we're running is it's a savings account the city uses to save for vehicles. When I spoke with the auditors and when we spoke here about what we were going to do to try and help in 2024, right? We said, well, the general fund can't really contribute to, replacing the infrastructure this year responsibly. So looking forward, like, again, with the health insurance, like, a very real statement could be made that you didn't replace your vehicle infrastructure as you would in order to provide health insurance.
And I think we should also look into some programs through the state and federal that are non-grant programs that allow us to come up with more energy savings too for the city. I know that there's some reimbursable stuff through the state right now too for municipalities that we should probably look into.
Yeah.
Any way to lower our costs.
So one other really key lucky element to the general fund budget, we saw it this year in the Q2 amendments, is your street lighting charges. UPCO was charging us about $18 a street light, I believe. We have a lot of street lights in the city. That was like a $200,000 a year effort, street lighting was, out of the general fund. They cut the rate after a rate study to $760. It's a huge decrease. But even then, we're seeing tightness in the general fund, even with that giant decrease in the street lighting costs that we had.
Well, I think as we go through this, mirroring the motor pool statement, the scenario, what else is sucking on the general fund? Well, I think that's what we need to look at.
So they're, in theory, eliminating your motor pool fund completely, selling off the assets to other funds. Water buys its own trucks, sewer buys its own trucks, streets buys their own trucks. Right now, you're paying for your vehicles out of the operating expenses of the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
If you had no motor pool, where would you buy your vehicles for the general fund? The public improvement fund.
Right.
Which is, you buy a vehicle out of your public improvement fund, it goes and lives in the general fund to drive around, like police vehicles already do. The general fund is a governmental fund, it doesn't recognize depreciation expense. Other than the operation and maintenance of that vehicle, you don't really see it come through on your operating expenses. When the motor pool is set up, it's great in theory, but what you're doing is you're forcing the general fund to pay for its vehicles out of its operating revenues and not your public improvement millage. Not a bad thing if you have a lot of public improvement millage. We need all the public improvement millage we can get. So it's a balancing act of, do we want to keep going as we're going and use our public improvement millage for other things, like a fire tower fix if we need one, or a new DPW complex or whatever down the road. Big projects that will take years to save for and plan. I don't know. This is also why it's important to look into the storm sewer thing. We're trying to, any way we can find a relief in some of these key funds has a ripple effect into the other ones.
Sure.
Okay.
The last fund that there are, of course, I should say, just as a COI disclosure, there are, of course, lots of small funds like your Building Authority Fund and your Carnegie Library. They're simple one-line funds. I didn't bother drafting an explanation on those. Typically, those are pretty self-explanatory, so you'll see those in your packet. But the last big fund that we typically spend time talking about is your police and fire retirement. Your market appreciation in 2024 was significantly higher than budgeted. I did make a conservative increase for the 2025 projections to reflect those funds' steady performance. Property tax revenue milled for the year will come just shy of $300K. And like other years, the pension benefits paid out to retirees represent the bulk of those funds' expenditures. How we decide how much we need to mill for that is GRS tells us so, our actuaries tell us so. So those numbers really don't have I don't have a ton of say in them, and they're not super flexible. It's really the actuarials driving that account. And of course, I don't manage our own investments for that account, so I'm not making any trading decisions or anything like that, thankfully.
So now we need some time to digest this. Do we have to come back for another special meeting now?
I guess that's up to you. If we had anything that you wanted to put on a regular meeting, I think we've spent a lot of time going over this in detail. I don't know if we need a special, it's up to council.
Pat, what's your suggestion?
Well, printed it out. I printed it out when we got it,
Yeah,
and I didn't think I printed the whole document, but I wasted about 30 pages of my paper.
Yeah, whoopsie.
But I did go through it a little bit, and just in general, I like the way you're presenting it better than we have it.
yeah, I do too.
It's a lot more easy, a lot easier to understand. And I don't know that there's anything that we should do for a regular meeting. And as much as I hate to say it, I think we should take another week or two beyond that.
I agree.
And do that for a special.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
It's a big decision. I'm human. I may have missed something. I'm certainly comfortable with people taking more time to vet and read and understand, come to terms with. I do want to thank the other senior staff. That
Absolutely.
capital improvement plan that we have, I think looks a lot nicer than anything that we've had in
Yeah.
prior years. And staff put together some thoughtful explanations on things. So when you guys are making a decision on your capital improvement plan now, it's not just, well, I think we need it. You've got some background. We'll continue to make this more robust, provide more background information, and add to it. You can see it goes through 2029. We'll be able to, I think this will be a big
40,
thing.
almost $43 million is going to be spent next year, so
Yeah, important to note,
some this year, right?
40K of that number is, so 16 million CWSRF
Yeah.
and 23.4 million DWSRF. So,
Yep,
but yeah, a significant portion of money.
okay.
That grant that was in the news yesterday or today,
That's our DWSRF.
oh, that's more of the,
Yeah, so the $9 million ARPA funding, and
okay.
that was paired with our, initially it was a $9 million, and then we went back and got an additional
Right.
13 because our bids came high. Yep. Not an additional 13, additional 4 to make it 13. Let me clarify.
Provide that update. Okay, anything else in the budget?
No, thank you. I am coining the term pave and save. I would like to, I
Sure.
like this because it feels responsible. Feels like there's a lot of good infrastructure projects here. And I think where we're at with the city is we take care of our infrastructure, we provide a fertile soil, and I think people move in and they set the direction and the tone for the more exciting stuff.
One thing, for the regular meeting would be if we can do the additional research on the water sewer.
Yeah, that would be good.
Of course,
application.
yeah. It'll likely have to be an ordinance.
Yep,
And add it to the
That-
feasibility.
That's why I think if we can get that moving
Yep.
quicker, I think that's kind of a win-win.
Yep, and that's something, even if we didn't, if it was an ordinance and that was the route and it took till March to get it passed, that'd be okay. You know, so let's take our time and make sure we do it right.
Do it right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
okay.
And there's,
Yeah,
oh, sorry, this is a, like I said, I do need to vet this more, so there may be something I'm unaware of. That's what we're spending the time, just wanted to
Right.
disclose that. We're spending the time to do more research on it.
thank you.
Possible option, not a definitive thing.
Okay.
Okay,
Anything else on the budget then?
no, thank you.
Okay, just one other update, just because it was brought up tonight. City staff and the attorney have already been looking into substitute attorney stuff for the past few months, so we're hoping to have some more information readily available, if not by the October meeting, hopefully by the November meeting. But that has been, progress has been made into looking into that for a while now, and just wanted to make sure the public is updated on that. There are some also creative solutions being discussed, so.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn.
Alrighty, we are adjourned.
Are we gonna get 906 on the blower tomorrow about